Welcome back to Technique WOD. This is part of a video series where we're breaking down the snatch into its component parts. We did the starting position, the first pull, the transition, the second pull, and now this video is about the catch and the recovery phase. Music. So I'm Doug Larson from the Barbell Shrug Podcast, and this is Alex Macklin. He's one of our faction and barbell shrugged weightlifting coaches. Like I said, today's video is all about the catch and recovery phase of the snatch. So Alex is going to show that specific part of the lift. So he's pausing here. He's basically in the power position. He's going to do a second pull and then pull himself underneath the weight all the way into a full overhead squat. There you go. So that's the part of the lift we're covering in this video. If I make things a little easier on Alex and give him a PVC pipe, we'll go through all the phases of this part of the movement. So Alex is starting in a good power position. Heels are on the ground, knees are out, knees are bent. He's got a vertical torso, bars hitting him right on the crease of his hips. Arms are straight, shoulders are down. He's in a good position to go into triple extension and pull the weight overhead and pull himself underneath the weight. So if he goes all the way into a full triple extension, so he pulls himself all the way up high, and now once he's here, he probably can't pull the weight much higher. It's going to float because he's going to have some momentum on the bar, but really at this point he's thinking shrug, elbows up and back, and he's pulling himself all the way to the bottom of the squat. So maybe do that in slow motion. Shrugs, elbows up and back, and then he goes all the way to the bottom of that squat, locks his elbows out, and then stands up overhead. So if we slow that down even further, he goes all the way up onto his toes. First thing, he's going to start shrugging his shoulders. Elbows are going to go up and back where he never does. There you go, beautiful, and all the way up. All right, so breaking that down even further, he always wants to shrug his shoulders first with his elbows straight, and then when he bends his elbows, he's never curling the weight. Elbows are going up and back, so pull your elbows up and back. That way he's keeping the bar nice and close. You can see there's no space here. The closer the bar is to his body, the easier it's going to be. If he does it wrong and he curls instead, there's going to be a bunch of space here. Now he's going to have to put his body underneath the bar by coming forward. He's going to be chasing the bar, and he's probably going to miss the lift out in front of him. So always wants his elbows up and back. That way he can get under that bar much easier. Now he's going to pull himself all the way to the bottom of the squat. And here he's just trying to land in a perfect overhead squat. He's landing with his elbows locked out, the bar right over his feet, heels are down, knees are out over his toes. He's got a nice tight back. He's in a perfect overhead squat position. And then ideally he can ride the bounce out of the bottom of the lift. Go ahead and show what riding the bounce looks like. There you go. So he's going down, and at the bottom of the movement, instead of pausing, he's just gonna come down and just kind of bounce out of the bottom of that movement. Not quite as critical on the snatch since the weight isn't as heavy as it is on the clean, because you're probably not going to get stuck in at your sticking point on an overhead squat. You can probably just grind through it no matter how fast you hit that movement in. So not quite as critical, but it will make it easier to get to stand up after the lift. So he's pulling from a snatch. Actually, you come out around the front, Chris. Right now, Alex is pulling in his pulling stance, which is typically more narrow than your squatting stance. So when he pulls himself under the weight, he's probably going to hop his feet out a little bit, not too far, but a couple inches maybe. Go ahead and look at his feet. There you go. See Alex hopped his feet out about 2 inches. Maybe toes out a little bit more in the process as well. That's a personal preference thing. But what you don't want to do is hop your feet out too wide where you end up in the jumping jack position. So go ahead and do it wrong. If you hop your feet out too wide, it's going to be very hard to get extremely low on your overhead squat. It's easier to squat all the way down with my feet right under me like this than it is if my feet are wide like this. I can't squat down as low. It's going to be easier if my feet are right underneath me. As far as how much you toe out on your overhead squat, that's going to be personal preference. As long as your knee is outside of your foot and your heel is down and you have a neutral spine, you're probably okay. People that have longer limbs, especially on overhead squats, tend to hop their feet out a little bit further, and they tend to toe out a little bit more. As I toe out a little bit more, it helps me push my hips forward, gives me a more vertical back, and it makes it easier to hold the weight overhead, especially at the bottom of the movement. I can be here with a vertical torso. If I'm like this, I kind of round my back a little bit, and it makes it harder for me to get into a vertical arm position. So I'm not stuck on feet totally straight ahead. It's going to be dependent on your personal body type and personal bone structure, whether you need to do that or not, and how mobile you are. So it's a combination of factors. So I'm not stuck on feet totally straight ahead, especially on overhead squats. All right, another quick point on the catch is that you want to lock your elbows out at the exact same time that you hit the bottom of your squat. So one more time, if we have Alex demo, see right when he hits the bottom of his squat is the exact same time that he locks his elbows out all the way. If you land with a soft elbow with heavy weight, it's going to come crashing down on you, and you're going to have to try and get out of the way of the bar, dropping it in front of you, or potentially even behind you. Another point there is that you want to have active shoulders. Some people think about active shoulders as pushing the bar up and shrugging your shoulders. I've never been real hot on that cue myself, but I know some people that like it. If you like it, keep using it, and that's great. But I personally like to try to pull the bar apart overhead. So if Alex has the bar overhead again, there you go. He's trying to basically tear the bar in half right in the middle by ripping the bar apart, and that's helping him add shoulder stability and scapular stability, so he's stronger with the weight overhead if he's standing or if he's at the very bottom of the movement. All right, so here's what it looks like if you aren't using the active shoulder cue and you're not trying to pull the bar apart. Your shoulders typically, they'll typically roll forward a little bit. If Alex can kind of roll his shoulder forward like that, he'll internally rotate here and he'll break and he'll roll his shoulder forward like that. So it'll kind of look like this, where this gets rolled forward like that, where instead of having the pit of his elbow pointing straight up like this, there you go, it'll roll forward and it'll point forward like that. So generally, when you're overhead, you want to be externally rotated, not internally rotated. So if I'm locking it out, I internally rotate like this. That's generally harder on my shoulders. I want to be externally rotated as best I can. The pit of my shoulder will be, or excuse me, the pit of my elbow here will point straight up, and I'll have my armpits kind of facing forward. Again, I won't be like this. My shoulders won't be forward. They'll be back and they'll be down, and they'll be more stable when you're in that position, and you're less likely to hurt your shoulder. All right, so that wraps up the snatch technique series. Again, we have a big overview video of how to do the entire movement, and then we broke it down into the starting position, the first pull, the transition, the second pull, and then this video, which is the catch and recovery video. If you haven't seen the other videos, you can go to barbellshrug.com, click on Technique WOD at the top of the page, and you can check out all the videos on the Technique WOD page.